Lovers, I want to give a special shout out this episode to my dear friend Caroline Rose Stokes, who made this episode possible. I left my hard drives and my wallet at the retreat house in Ojai today because I was very sleepy from cooking for 20 ladies and retreating all week, and I didn't realize I'd left literally my most important possessions until I was already back in Los Angeles, which is a couple hours away. So Caroline swung by, picked up my things, and transferred me the files for today's episode so I can upload them. She saved the day. If you're ever in Ojai, California and want to show your gratitude and also visit an amazing acupuncturist, you can visit her website, carolinerosehealing.com, CarolineRose healing.com, or just follow her on Instagram at Caroline Rose Healing. She fed me goji berries from her very own goji berry bush yesterday and made my lady cramps go away instantly with her magic hands. So, big thank you to Caroline. On that note, I was working/expanding my little self at Heidi Rose Robbins' incredible Radiant Life Retreat. And on today's episode, Heidi is my guest. And we talk about how sex and partnership can show up in one's astrological chart. You've heard me touch on astrology here and there. I can't help myself. I talk about it. I've been in Los Angeles 12 years. I can't help it. So if you're a devoted listener, you can now meet the woman from whom I absorbed all that knowledge. I started working for Heidi about 7 years ago. I've done various iterations of her website. I've made 2 books of hers, which you should go buy if you ever want some poetry or inspiration. I've helped her with events, and I also produce her podcast, The Radiance Project. And if you're curious about your own chart as you listen, I do have a special offer running on Patreon right now. If you go visit patreon.com/Wyoh and join before November 1st, I will take a look at the sexy placements in your natal chart, and I'll make a little video overview of it. So go become a love warrior with me. Together, we can fight to make the world a sexier place. Hello, lovely humans. I'm Wyoh, and you're listening to Sex Stories, a podcast where we share intimate details in an effort to help everyone lead better laid lives. And my guest today, I am so excited to introduce to you. You guys have heard me spout some astrology. I can't help myself sometimes. Today, I have the wonderful human responsible for teaching me really how to be a better person in so many ways. Help me welcome Heidi Rose Robbins.
Yay. Hello.
Yay.
So glad to be here.
Can you give our listeners a little bit of a snapshot about you?
Well, yes. I have been living in Los Angeles for like 20 years. My background is all artistry and acting and that whole world. But for many, many years, I've been an astrologer. And I also lead Radiant Life Retreats for the last 10 years as well. I love poetry. I love to perform poetry. So I've sort of made my life out of the things that I love. And I think about 5 years ago, I said, I'm a poet with the map of the heavens in my pocket.
Oh, that is perfect. And I should point out that our listeners probably have you to thank for this podcast existing at all. I produce Heidi's podcast, The Radiance Project, which is a podcast of astrology, poetry, and inspiration and very good company, and you should go check it out. And I got to watch you do that for a year, a little over a year, overlapping, leading up to me starting to do this. So I'm pretty sure that I never would have been brave enough to try to interview strangers if it weren't for watching you do it.
Isn't it hard to believe that Wyoh wouldn't have been brave enough? Like, but she, you watched and listened, and you could just feel the imminent show. Like you could feel that the show was coming.
I think I'm a very specific type of shy, though.
Oh, that's for sure. I wouldn't call you shy. I would call you absorbing quietly, and then you come forward in a whole new way. But no, I mean, you and I really busted it out. Like Wyoh and I, when we worked together, we really bust things out. And when I started the podcast in 2017, it was just 2 years ago. Yeah, we were like, okay, bring it on. Let's do it. And so we did 4 guests a week or something like that. I mean, we weren't doing that many shows, but, and we were recording a lot. And
a ton. And so I learned a lot. And
yeah.
So here you are with a podcast now for you. I asked Heidi to be here today to talk about sex and the stars, I guess we might say. I want to run through some astrological stuff, and Heidi is also a genius at picking out poems. So we have Heidi picked out some poems for us to read that are very sexy. So I wanted to start with my favorite sexy poem that was the first poem that I got at the first retreat I went on with Heidi. And actually, at this retreat, like 10 of the other women and I were in the hot tub on the final night, and we were like, so what are the sexiest moments we've experienced? And we went around and shared these stories, and it was a week later that I met my former master. And so I remember after I met him, I was like, oh my God, if only I could be in the hot tub to share these stories.
Oh my gosh,
It's just funny to reflect on that. So Heidi does a thing where sometimes all the poems will be spread out face down on the floor, and you have to go pick the one that calls to you, and then you get a partner and you read it to each other. And so the poem that I read was called What Do Women Want by Kim Addonizio. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is this is maybe my favorite poem. I don't know if I have favorites. I don't usually have favorites because, I am polyamorous and I guess non-monogamous. I love a lot of things. Something.
Polypoetic.
I want a red dress. I want it flimsy and cheap. I want it too tight. I want to wear it until someone tears it off me. I want it sleeveless and backless, this dress, so no one has to guess what's underneath. I want to walk down the street, past Thrifties and the hardware store with all those keys glittering in the window, past Mr. and Mrs. Wong selling day-old donuts in their cafe, past the Guerra brothers slinging pigs from the truck and onto the dolly, hoisting the slick snouts over their shoulders. I want to walk like I'm the only woman on earth that I can have my pick. I want that red dress bad. I want it to confirm your worst fears about me, to show you how little I care about you or anything except what I want. When I find it, I'll pull that garment from its hanger like I'm choosing a body to carry me into this world, through the birth cries and the love cries too, and I'll wear it like bones, like skin. It'll be the goddamn dress they bury me in.
So
before
good.
I was naked all the time in public, I was obsessed with red dresses and picking that poem. And I specifically spent a long time searching for a flowy red dress to take with me to South America because I had this vision of twirling in, like a spaghetti strap, but very twirly dress. And I never found it. And so I'm still searching for that dress. But at that retreat, another woman happened to have one of those infinity dresses that was long and twirly, but it wasn't as heavy as most of them. And so anyway, that poem feels like magic to me. And I will say that one piece is, I could never show anybody how little I care about them because I care about people too much. Because I have Mars and Cancer in the 7th house. Will you explain what that means?
But sometimes you're a badass and you don't, you also don't have to fawn. You don't.
I don't feel like a badass. I'm a bit of a fawn. I don't know.
Mars and Cancer in the 7th house the 7th house in the chart is very much about relationships. So if you have any planets there, it has a lot to do with your romantic relationships. And Mars is the warrior and the assertive planet, but you assert with a Cancer energy, which is like, let me feed you, let me nourish you, let me take care of you, let me make sure you're soft and cozy and comfortable, Yeah. So it is very much attention on the other and the other's comfort and well-being.
Do you think that's also why I could possibly be combative, though? Because I feel like that's like the nice version of Mars and Cancer in the 7th house. But I think I do also have this quality of like, I'm alone. I'm making crab claws.
Yeah. The more difficult version is reactive and specifically towards the partner, the romantic partner, and that it can lash out because it can store things up and then it like gets stuffed and then it's like, it's enough.
Yeah. And
it can lash out.
I will say I don't really store things up anymore. Now I'm like, okay, real time. Let's talk about this now. Here's what I'm observing. So, and that's the explicit communication that I'm working on practicing. So should we dive into, or maybe you read a poem first and then we'll dive into. You have another poem you should read?
Yeah. Actually, it's another, Kim Addonizio is a wonderful, wonderful poet, and I would highly recommend her. And, so many times I've had people come to the retreats and be like, oh my God, I don't like poetry. I had to learn, I hate it in high school. And the fact is, like, you haven't been exposed to the deliciousness of so many poems. And if poetry doesn't like just pierce you, if poetry doesn't like get into your body and being, then it's not real poetry or something. I don't know. That's not fair to say. But
it's not your poetry.
Yes, exactly.
You have to find your own poetry, just like you have to find your own lovers.
Yes. And so, but she's really raw and delicious. And this is another one of hers, and it's called First Poem for You. I like to touch your tattoos in complete darkness when I can't see them. I'm sure of where they are, know by heart the neat lines of lightning pulsing just above your nipple, can find, as if by instinct, the blue swirls of water on your shoulder where a serpent twists facing a dragon. When I pull you to me, taking you until we're spent and quiet on the sheets, I love to kiss the pictures in your skin. They'll last until you're seared to ashes. Whatever persists or turns to pain between us, they will still be there. Such permanence is terrifying. So I touch them in the dark, but touch them trying.
I mean,
isn't that good?
Oh my God.
I love that idea of like that the permanence is terrifying, and that like just to touch them and be like trying to believe that the permanence is possible, or trying to not have the loss, and just it's so, I don't know, I think it's a very sexy poem.
It's very sexy, and it reminds me so much of just the intimate feeling of being with someone in bed, however long it lasts.
Yeah.
And it's just funny because Heidi's been forced to listen to my dating adventures in a way that maybe nobody else has. It's because she's in my space, like, here's what's happening to me.
I love it.
And as I'm getting to know new people and trying to feel into them, I experience moments of like terror and delight, because even just to touch a person like in that moment, it's like that's the permanent moment of that moment. And like for me, I don't have any tattoos because of the, I don't know, permanence, I guess.
Right.
And I don't know, it just makes me think about the way that you can observe a lover or experience a lover, and
yeah, I love that.
I will say I also get a little bit offended when somebody wants to have sex with me totally in the dark.
Ah.
I know some people prefer that. I'm a little bit more like, wait, can we?
Don't you want to see all the abundance? All the goodness?
This is my feelings. Although I do get very light sensitive sometimes.
Do you find that people do often want to have sex in the dark? I mean, like,
not all of them, but one of my lovers does currently likes to turn off the lights. He keeps a little night light on, but I'm just like, I just clock it. I haven't said anything yet because I just am observing.
Yeah.
So I have been making some observations just in talking to people who have come on this podcast, and also just people in the world, and also looking up the charts of my lovers who consent and give me their birth info. I'm noticing in the kink world that people who tend to be kinky in a BDSM way have strong Virgo, Scorpio, and Capricorn, and then they're like hints of Taurus in there as well. Like I would say just in my, not that those are the only things, but I'm looking, and to those of you who aren't as familiar with astrology, we look at the sun sign, which is the personality sign, and that's kind of what you all know. Like if you know your sign, that's your sun sign. So I'm a Taurus sun. You've also heard me talk about my Pisces moon and my Sag rising. And so your moon, well, Heidi can explain it better.
No, you're doing great.
I'm doing great. Yeah. Your moon is like your past, or where you come from, or your, the habits that you revert to at your crinkliest. And your rising sign is what you're here to call in this lifetime. Your soul purpose is what we say. We work in esoteric astrology because Heidi helps me grow my soul that way. Be a better human. Truly, I'm so much nicer and more compassionate because of Heidi.
Aww.
Like I have this model of this compassionate human, and I'm like, oh, that's an interesting way to do it. Okay, I could try that.
I love that.
It's true.
Well, and also when you were talking about the moon in the past and the childhood, I do think also the moon is so connected to our bodies, and what is comforting or what feels good or what we know in our bodies. So that's obviously so connected to our sexuality.
Yeah.
And then the rising sign is more, more soul oriented, but the moon is really key, I think.
That's a great point. Okay, so I've noticed, I guess Virgo rising are the kinky people that I'm looking
Yeah.
at. Scorpio too, obviously. A lot of doms that I've met have Scorpio moons or Venus in Scorpio.
Yeah, I would say so. Scorpio, absolutely, right? Scorpio rules sex and it rules power and it rules control. So you look at Scorpio, you look at Aries, you look at Capricorn as well.
Yeah.
Capricorn and Scorpio are the two signs of control. And so, wanting to hold things and create a structure and then Scorpio wants to go as deep and dark and intense as it can go.
Yeah.
The Virgo is interesting because Virgo, people who have strong Virgo, and again, you made a good point. It's not whether you're a Virgo or not. You might have a whole bunch of planets in Virgo and not even know about it. So don't freak out if, you're like, I don't have any of those signs, in my chart because you might. Mm-hmm. But Virgo is, it's sort of quietly steamy and quietly like, I love this particular thing.
It's so specific.
It is the kinky thing where it's
and that's the specific, because like a lot of people who are like sex lovers, they'll have Scorpio in there somewhere. And I have Pluto and Scorpio in the 11th house. So that is this sex podcast. Yes. Like I have death and transformation and healing. Like that's Pluto, double dose of that because it's Scorpio.
Yeah.
And the going deep, but in the realm of the group and communication and technology and that. So that's like how but it's not necessarily like my sexual self, but I do have a lot in the 6th house. I don't know. So maybe that's the part of me. Yeah. What would my submissive part be? Oh, I never thought about it for myself.
Pisces, moon in Pisces. Okay. Totally moon in Pisces. Because Pisces even rules bondage.
Oh, it does?
Yes. Yes. Pisces rules
like jails, prison.
But it actually does. Like the fishes are bound together until they're not, So it absolutely rules all that.
I literally had not made that connection until just now.
Yeah. It even, it rules slavery. It rules that whole kind of realm.
I mean, that makes so much sense. That is where I'm very comfortable.
Yeah. I mean, so you look to when you say that's where I'm very comfortable, you look to the moon to go like, that's where I'm comfortable. So like I have moon in Capricorn. I'm way more comfortable with control and like, and being in charge, right? Like I don't want to relinquish control, at least when I'm in my safe place.
Yeah. Yeah.
But of course we all want to get out of our safe places and we want to move towards, we all want to be safe. Well, let's say that's true. Yes. But we also all want to grow. And so I would also say to you, it's interesting that you're Taurus and yet Scorpio is the sign opposite Taurus.
Yes.
So your growth point is Scorpio, actually.
And I attract Scorpios like a...
Oh, yeah.
Like a magnet.
You're always... Look at your own sun sign and look at the sign opposite it. And that is an energy of attraction. So Aries, Libra, Taurus, Scorpio, Gemini, Sagittarius, Cancer, Capricorn, Leo, Aquarius, and Virgo, Pisces. Those are the oppositions. And just notice you're going to attract people of that opposite sign. And, and actually part of your purpose in this life is a Scorpio purpose because it's called the monadic point. It's another really like evolved point where you're like, I'm here to do some Scorpio stuff.
Yeah.
Which is like, let's talk about sex and let's be clear about it. And your Sagittarius rising wants to be really clear and direct.
So clear.
Yeah.
So clear. And I also think it's so funny because my experience particularly of Scorpio suns is there is that like intensity in the darkness. And I'm like, hi, I'm here. What do you want? Why are you being so serious? Like, and so that always just kind of makes me giggle because it's funny to me because I guess I'm bringing this up because there are so many different ways to engage sexually with the different personalities. And I think actually it might be fun to talk just a little bit and give us an overview of the like sex in the different signs or like where we might look in the chart or even what planets we might look to outside of the realm of kink.
Yeah. Well, and I would just say for fun, in the realm of kink, it is interesting that Uranus is a planet that I would really call into that realm. And Uranus for you is in your first house. It's like one of the most obvious placements.
Uranus in Capricorn.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you have an interesting thing because you have Uranus and you have Saturn in the first house. So it sometimes you let yourself completely go Uranian and sometimes the Saturn is much more rule following or something or, more structured.
Yeah.
But always look to Uranus for the unconventional or for out of the box or for trying the new. And if Uranus is highlighted in your chart in any way, like if it's on your ascendant, if it's conjunct your sun, if it's conjunct your moon, if it's in your 7th house of relationship. Because if you look at a chart, guys, you can look, you can see there's 12 different sections of the chart, and each section is an area of your life. And so the 7th section, or the 7th house, is your house of relationship. And so if Uranus is there, it's often like, give me freedom, give me unconventionality, give me the new, give me a new pattern in the realm that I relate.
That is so interesting. And that is resonating so hard with me, because I'm like, I need my freedom. I must be free, but I also would like to be a slave. I'd like to be a free slave. I'd like to have someone that can, dominate me and control me within our set of boundaries, which any healthy, kinky relationship will have. But I'm also just looking for, I guess it's like, I've been telling people as I'm getting to know new people that like my work is first. Like this podcast, this work that I'm doing, that's my partner. That's my first thing.
Yeah.
So that's hard, because I'm just like, what dom is going to be like, yes, little slave, I'm happy to share you. And
well,
that's what I'm unpacking.
You have to find them.
That's like, but that's like Uranus in the first.
Yeah. Because you also have a lot of, you have a lot of control in your chart. You have a lot of authority in your chart, and need to,
which I exercise in my daily life.
Yeah.
And so in my sex life, I want to just be like, let me rest now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pisces in the
3rd house.
3rd house.
Well, you have a lot of words. You have a lot of language. You have a lot of ideas.
Too many words
around.
That's true. It's really great for me to just be gagged sometimes, or to only have a safe word, or to, and that is to be allowed to be silent. Actually, is not something that I have that often.
Yeah. Well, that would also feel safe or comfortable to you, to be in a kind of receiving, listening, stopped mode. Yeah. I mean, and again, like, where does this come from? Because the moon is so much about our experiences in our body, in our home, in our biological family, and it all feeds into what we're attracted to and the experiences we want to have as adult. And then we want to take the best of that, but we also want to move towards our sun and our rising sign. So it's interesting.
So where else in the chart? Okay, so
so it's definitely 7th house, definitely 8th house, because 8th house is the house of sex, and it's the house of mystery, and it's the house of power dynamics. And so 7th and 8th house are really strong for relationship stuff. You could also look at the 1st house, like we were saying. You want to look at how somebody walks in a room. Are they really intense? Do they have Pluto in the 1st house? Are they really unconventional? Do they have Uranus in the 1st house? Are they kind of like, do they love the fantasy and the escape? Neptune in the 1st house? So I would, in terms of relationship, like, if you start getting into like, who do I want to build a nest with, those are other houses, but definitely just in terms of dating and connecting, I would say 1st, 7th, 8th. Yeah.
Are we looking at specific planets?
Yeah.
Because I was like, what about Venus?
Yeah. So Venus and Mars, I would look at Venus for what you just love, what you're attracted to, what you find beautiful,
Which is not necessarily visual, I just want to say.
No,
myself.
Absolutely not. No.
But can be.
Yeah, well, you have Venus and Taurus, which really appreciates beauty, like,
But I can't see faces very well. Like, I really can't.
Well, but that's the whole thing about Taurus. At its highest level, it's beyond the physical. It's kind of like, what's the light inside?
Yeah.
What is my experience?
That is how I experience people. Yeah. Like, what do you feel like?
But you also love so let's take it out of the realm of people. Like, you love certain textures and like, Taurus loves beauty in physical form. It does, but it doesn't have to necessarily be a human.
That's true. That's very true.
And you also love, it doesn't have to, faces don't matter. You love the lines of the body. That's why you take all, these beautiful nudes. Like, you love all the curves and the angles and the light. That's all Taurus.
And it's like beauty beyond the visual. Like, it is the sensual experience for me, like both taking those nudes and being in them, and like getting to, I guess, guide a person through their own experience in their body.
Yeah, and their own worth and their own beauty. And plus, Taurus rules the natural world. So we could say the natural world of like naked bodies are natural.
I was made to not have clothes.
But also you out in nature. You love to be out naked as well.
I am currently trying to figure out where I can go. I'm going to Albuquerque with my family this weekend, and I'm trying to figure out where I can go in the wild where there can be hot air balloons from this festival in the background, but I can be naked in the world.
Oh my God, that's awesome. Oh, so good. You know, I would also say that Mars tells you a lot about how assertive you are, right? So it's interesting, again, for you, Mars in Cancer, it's more of a divine feminine sign. So it's not necessarily the pursuit. Like if you want to look at Mars, you want to look, are they in masculine? And again, like this is like a divine masculine, right? So you want to look, Mars in Aries will just go after its...
I have not paid attention to the Marses of my lovers. I gotta go look at their Marses.
Yeah, oh, yes, you do. Well, I mean, yes, for men and women, you want to look at Mars. Mars in Aries goes for it. Mars in Aries loves to flirt too. Aries is a very flirty sign, and it loves conquest.
Why am I flirty?
Because you got 3 planets in the first house.
Because I'm like, hi, who are you? What's in there? Oh, God.
And you're also very curious.
Ugh, I'm so curious. Also, yesterday I definitely hit on a client for the first time, and I called it out. I was like, I'm sorry, I have too much flirt energy today. I just got excited. We just had an episode hit 10,000, but he was like here for it. But I was like, I have to keep this in. This is not appropriate, and I felt weird the rest of the day. But we'll see.
So good. Yeah, I mean, you know, it is interesting. Like Mars, like I have Mars in Libra, which is the sign opposite Aries, which is a little, well, Libra is a sign of relationship. So it has its own version of flirting, but it definitely is not assertive.
Yeah.
Like you want to, Mars in Capricorn, really assertive. Mars in Scorpio, really quietly assertive. Mars in Aries, really assertive. Mars in Sagittarius, really physical, like it will leap into physical experiences. You can really look to these, like what kind, I mean, you can look for your lover in Mars or in Venus. So do you want a masculine energy in your life that's really hyper intellectual? Mars in Gemini, like that wants to talk it out, that loves to talk during sex. That's Mars in Gemini.
Oh my gosh. Like the guy that I recently stopped seeing, he's lovely, but he wasn't making enough time for me. He literally, I haven't told this story. He literally would not stop making jokes and observations while I was deep throating him, to the point where I just had to stop and be like, hey, I can't, I'm going to bite you. Like, stop. Like, don't make it. Yeah, it was 2 times he made me laugh so hard that I had to come up for air and I was just dying. It's very cute. Very good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's definitely, if you have an air sign like Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius, you're generally going to enjoy the exchange, the verbal exchange, and the whole play verbally a lot. Where you might, with water, you might have much more silence.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces.
To bring it back to kink for a second, because I just got curious, like I do. Okay, people who are switches that like can go both ways, dom or sub, what would they, is that Gemini? What would that be?
Well, it could be. I think that's a good observation. I think it could, Gemini or Libra. Because Libra also has both the, you know, oftentimes when you see a Libra, you'll see the qualities of the masculine and the feminine really beautifully blended in the body. And you'll also feel that there's that in-between place. It's not like hyper masculine or hyper feminine often. So I would say Libra or Gemini. Because Gemini also is just curious, wants to experience both.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you think about doms, I would think more generally sort of Aries, Scorpio, Capricorn.
Yeah.
I would go for that.
My ex-master had a Libra moon, Sag sun, Virgo rising, and I think he had Venus in Scorpio.
Okay.
And so it was a very, you know, and a lot of our sessions were kind of, structured around words. Like we had a lot of like the term, and I think that's a Libra moon. Like it was about like saying the words that were most delicious to me. And he was so good at doing that most of the time, when he wanted to. Yeah. And so that was just like, ugh, I don't know. I'm just thinking about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder also it'd be interesting for you to look at the predominant astrology in doms and subs, right?
Yeah.
In terms of, like I would say Pisces would be very strong.
I'm going to have to put
Taurus,
a survey up. I feel like we need to do some research. Okay, you guys, by the time this comes out, what should my link be? You should visit sexstoriespodcast.com/chart and let me know your birth info and if you identify as kinky or not, so we can collect some data.
Seriously, we do need to do that because that's where we're lacking in the astrological world is enough statistical. Seriously, it's like, astrologers will be like, they'll have their own passion projects where they'll look, I'll study athletes or something. And where's Mars in the chart?
This could be my very passionate project.
You could have a passionate project. Yes. Also, I would say, a heavy 12th house, I think. Because there's so much fantasy there. There's
for submissives or for in
maybe
general?
Both, but I would say submissives. That would be my first, list there. But I would say just in general, the whole realm of that kink and that whole, I would just say the 12th house because it has so much to do with what goes on in the subconscious, unconscious, behind the scenes, what's hidden, what's not in broad daylight. So there's a lot with the 12th house. And it's the Pisces house. So again, the whole.
Delicious.
Yeah. And then, if you go through, if you have a strong Saturn in your chart, let's say it could be that a Dom has a strong Saturn because Saturn has such a older masculine archetype that's also very much just like rules and regulations and structure. And so you could have somebody that really strong Saturn.
I'm just so insanely curious right now if people who are in 24/7 DS relationships are, have, I'm just so curious to see how that shows up in their charts.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah. You can, start, here we go. It's the beginning of the research.
Okay, do you want to go through the signs/houses and just together brainstorm what sexy things might happen?
Yeah.
This is a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea. No. We're sort of dancing all over, so we could be more organized about it. So.
I think we're doing a great dance. I think it's a great dance.
Yeah, we could do a sort of fire round. Aries definitely is just dives in. Yeah, it just dives in. It's impulsive. It probably gets into trouble for being impulsive.
You got to make sure you have a conversation about protection.
Yeah,
if you have strong Aries energy,
right? Because it just wants to skip steps for sure. Yeah. And there's an impatience too. And so with Aries, sometimes you have to learn to enjoy the delicious unfolding and not just be get right to it.
Yeah, maybe not go straight for the orgasms. Okay.
Yeah, and Aries is really conquesty and very much now I got that person, now I want this person. Now it's it loves the chase, and once the chase is complete, it's sort of okay, good. Now, what's over there? Obviously, again, I'm making broad sweeping generalizations.
This is without the nuance.
Right? This is without a lot of nuance, but
if you want the nuance, do you want to offer some sort of sexy snapshot for people?
Yeah, sure. If they, yes, absolutely.
All right, I'm going to add that to Heidi's website. I'll include info about how to find that.
I did one for one of your Patreon people.
How was that?
Good. Yeah, I think from my end it was good.
Great.
Because you can look at different areas for sure. Yeah, I just look at what's most obvious.
Yeah.
But Taurus, I would say is very it's very sensual. It just wants all the senses stimulated.
I just want to be touched.
Yeah, everything.
Except for with velvet, corduroy, that's red for me. I try not to. I can touch it for work purposes if I really steal my mind, but that would be totally red.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something, Taurus is very come to me. Mm-hmm. It's very receptive. It's very
I
magnetic.
do feel like I am that.
Yeah. It doesn't, Aries goes after, Virgo invites.
Yeah.
Yeah. Classically, Aries is the warrior, Taurus is more the lover.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I'm definitely a lover, not a fighter.
Yeah.
And I would also say I am a lover of lovers.
Uh-huh.
That's what I've been thinking about lately.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Yeah, and and again, if you look at just the first two signs of the zodiac, Aries is ruled by Mars and Taurus is ruled by Venus. So those are the two planets that are most connected to love.
And as I'm brainstorming about other kinks, I don't know if you know about this kink, but there's one called feeding, where people literally feed each other or eat food. Oh, is that Cancer?
It would all be Cancerian.
Because I'm what about Taurus? Okay, so let's go in order though. Wait, we can't skip Gemini. Okay, we'll get to that. I was trying to put that in the Taurus box, but
Gemini
you're right,
would be the talking. Gemini would be just talk to me. Say
probably
all the things I
love
to hear. Gemini also rules the hands. Gemini could also get bored easily. You get bored easily.
not in a way where I discard people, just where I'm like, come on, what are you doing? Come on, let's do the thing. Why are we laying here?
Yeah.
I get very after if I don't understand the purpose of what we're doing, I'm just like, what are we doing? I'm bored. Let's do the next thing.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously Geminis, it's like sometimes you spin out too much and it's like you're stuck in your head and you got to find the ways to like quiet that down so that you can actually be more in your body, you know? Mm-hmm. But I would say for Gemini, a turn on would be absolutely the way that someone speaks to them and whether it feels real or whether it feels, or, you know, you'll be if somebody's saying something and it just is falling flat, it's like the worst turn off. Right?
It really is.
Yeah.
It's terrible. And finding that communication. Yeah. Huge. What about Gemini connection? Like, I always think connection, building bridges, goodwill. Like, what is that sexually? What's the sex version of that?
Well, it's many partners. Gemini would be very much into many partners. Yeah, that's another part. Because Wyoh's got the moon in Pisces in the third house of Gemini.
Yeah.
So Geminis, again, are sort of like Aries in that they're not the most monogamous or, you know, they're interested. Like, what about you? Oh my God, what are you going to bring to me? Or what's going to happen here?
Well, and I also have Jupiter, the planet of the big yes, in Gemini.
In the house of Kink.
In the house of
Virgo.
Kink. Right next to Mercury, which is the communicator, also in Gemini. So I'm like, let's also talk about it.
Yes, exactly.
Which is what we're doing.
Exactly.
Okay, so Cancer is the feeding king.
Yeah, I would connect that. I mean, you brought it up, but yes, it's definitely like it. And it's also very emotional. Cancer's deeply emotional. You know, Cancer is connected to mommy and daddy too. There's a whole like, you know, paternal, maternal thing going on.
And that caretaking, which I would say the more that I learn about like DDLG, daddy little girl relationships, there is a huge, it's not an incest thing, it's a huge caretaking streak. And so I'd be so curious to see the amount of Cancerian energy that flows through those.
Probably Cancer or Capricorn for sure.
Yeah, probably both. Yeah. But there's both showing up in those charts.
Or even, I mean, this is one of my own pet, like, I just don't like it at all, where married partners will call their partner mommy, mother or father or mommy or daddy if they have kids. I just can't. But that's very Cancer, Capricorn too.
Both my parents do that. When we're in, my mom is a Cancer sun and my dad is Capricorn rising. Okay, he's a Sag sun, Cap rising, and there's so much Capricorn energy, you know. And they do it in the most normal way, like not like a cutesy way. It's just like, well, have you talked to daddy yet? And I'm just like, and there's, when I'm talking to other people, I'm just like, oh.
Well, actually, that in a weird way does not bother me. Oh. Have you talked to daddy yet? This is what bothers me. When they actually call the partner mother.
Oh, like mama, directly.
Like it's a direct address.
Got it.
Where their own name has been replaced. With mother or father.
Oh, yeah. No, my parents
that
go,
makes me insane.
Honey. Yeah.
I should have been clarified.
Yeah. No. Well, this is what I do, though. I clarify.
Yes,
I'm a clarifier.
That's your Gemini in the Virgo house.
Let's be very exact about this communication and really, really fast.
Yes.
I'm trying to slow down.
You have to wait for people to catch up.
I'm trying to slow down. I'm trying to listen. I'm trying not to interrupt as much.
That's an Aries thing. Aries loves to interrupt.
I'm such an interrupter, but it's because I get confused.
You interrupt with Capricorn, which is clarity.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, I don't understand. And I have to pause you before you go forth because if I keep listening, I'll get too confused and then I won't know what's happening. Yeah. And that's what's happening. So, okay, anything else with Cancer?
No, that's, mama, daddy, feeding.
Yeah.
Breasts. Cancer rules breasts.
Yeah.
I mean, for sure. You always have to look at that too, the body part, for sure.
You always have to look at the breasts.
Yeah, you have to, right. Like Aries is the head. So for sure, like people with Aries love to have their like head massage or whatever. And,
I do.
Yeah.
Cut off all my hair so I could get head rubs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Taurus would be much more about, Taurus was the throat, so that's not as obvious.
I love deep throating.
Okay, there we go. Wouldn't have come up with that, but there we go.
That's why I'm here to help. It's the duality.
And Gemini rules hands, and so the touch is really important with Gemini, and Cancer rules the breasts and the stomach.
Yeah.
So, and then Leo rules the heart. Leo rules the heart and the spine. So sometimes it's not as immediately obvious in terms of the sexuality, but so Leo loves to be proud of its lovers. It loves to show off its lovers. It does not want to feel at all embarrassed or like, it really wants to be like, look who I'm with. Look at my king. Look at my queen.
I'm laughing because I'm thinking of my friends with strong Leo in their charts, and I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
it's them.
Yeah, they really, it's really, there's something about that pride and that regality and of course there are Leos that feel more shy or that are not like, I don't feel like a queen. Well, guess what? There's other stuff in your chart that is modifying that for sure. But,
what about praise? Like, do they like to be
they love
praised?
to be adored. They love to be
adored,
praised. They love to be seen for their, for their beauty and their capability. And so, praise would go a long way. Love to dress up even. That whole role play would be very Leo.
Oh yeah,
very Leo.
Totally.
Yeah.
What about the generosity? Like, do you think there's potential at the
generosity.
highest?
Yes. Yeah, it's either going to be totally self-absorbed, totally about like its own pleasure, or at the highest levels, Leo's very generous and very warm and
very good hair.
Very good hair.
Probably really good JBF hair, which has just been fucked hair for those of you that are not me in middle school being shocked.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's the main.
Yeah.
It's the main. Yeah.
And then Virgo.
Virgo we sort of talk about is like structure. Virgo is very particular about what it wants to take in and it rules the intestines, like what it wants to ingest. It's very particular about how it wants to be touched, in what ways. It's particular. Sometimes it's really clean freaky.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hygienic.
Yep.
Yeah. Doctors and nurse play. I don't know.
The thing that I think is so interesting too is I'm talking to a couple new doms is they want to pay attention to what I'm eating and when, which I'm into. Like, I eat pretty great, but they're like literally just getting text messages like, have you had enough water today? So I'm always like, where's the Virgo? You gotta have something.
It. There's something
it's like related to the kink somehow.
I think we've got to really keep following that because it's for sure. And it's, it's tiny adjustments, like looking at the person or looking at the environment and being like, let's adjust that and let's fix that. And you're going to feel better if we do this.
I bet people who do shibari, like the beautiful rope ties, I bet they have some strong
Because guess what? Pisces, Virgo.
Yeah.
Again, Pisces. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, Libra, we also talked about a little bit.
Yeah. I would say Libra likes the romance.
Yeah.
Libra's more of the true romantic. Libra
oh my God, that just clarified for me. Because my master was always like, I want to marry you. And I'm like, what? No.
It rules marriage. Yeah, and that's his comfort zone. You said moon in Libra, right? Yeah. So it sort of gets very devoted to the one. They love to be in love. The love of being in love. And then they love sometimes being in love more than they love the actual person. Again, I'm being, I'm painting this black and white. We're painting and there are all levels of consciousness in every sign. And you can have you can have a terribly abusive sign. You can have the most generous exploration of the sign. But anyway, Libra is very much the romantic, I would say. And also very right in that middle ground of the masculine and the feminine. Again, it often isn't hyper one way or another.
Yeah. And then
Scorpio. We don't even need to talk about Scorpio. Sex, death, money, power, and all of that. And are you going to use them in healthy, good ways? Or are you going to, there can be a lot of violence and abuse there with Scorpio, or there can be just like the best, most fierce way to use power. And it's really ultimately a sign of light. Yeah. Because you wrestle your way into the light. But it's very, very interested in sex. It's very interested in death. It's interested in these heightened moments, the little death, right? That's...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's...
She's talking about orgasms in French, just so you know. Petit mort.
The little death. Yeah. So it's... And, Scorpio loves the mystery of attraction, and it loves to create the tension between, and hold it and hold it and hold it and hold it. Like it loves.
That's so interesting because that's actually what I'm trying to bring a big flashlight to and be like, look, guys, we don't have to worry about like if we're trying to have sex or not. Like I'm actually trying to shift the tension so that it's about not the if, not the are you trying to fuck me of the attraction. And it's like the attraction has been explicitly stated. Now it's about the when and the what and the where. And the, so I'm like, hey, Scorpios, get on board. but I know there is that because people are like, oh, that's not as romantic. And I'm like, well, you haven't been taught that it's romantic.
Yeah.
And like, we're in a new time. Like,
And I mean, I suppose there's middle ground in the sense that not everyone wants. I mean, we need consent, absolutely.
Yes.
We need clarity, absolutely. But there also the timing of that is negotiable.
That 100%. And I want to make that like really clear, because it's like my only goal is get rid of the rapey stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Please. Yes.
And that, and so that's, and I think if my version of over explicitness, probably by most people's standards, if I'm like out there being like, here's an example, then people can find their own ways in, is what I'm hoping. So we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. You're sort of holding a very extreme point in a good way to clarify.
And just to be like, this is the norm. And you don't have to do all of these things, but do the basic thing of explicit enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Explicit enthusiastic consent. And then you pick.
Yeah, that's
so
great.
Sagittarius is going to throw me around. Is going to use their legs.
Yeah, I mean, it rules the legs. It's very physical. Contortionist. I know it's very physical. It also is loves the long run. It's not so much sprint. Yeah, it loves the long run.
That's so funny. Yes,
and I would say. It has its own version of loving communication. And Sagittarius is very desire oriented. Early stages, it like wants to explore and try everything and taste everything, and nothing is out of bounds, and like, bring it on. Let me keep growing my awareness of the world. Right. Yeah. So it definitely will. And then it'll reach the goal or reach the desire, and they'll be like, okay, maybe not. And then it'll go off on another one. It's like, oh, this is going to be delicious, and I'm going to taste this, and I'm going to try this, and but it keeps,
Well, it's like the adventure is delicious. It's not necessarily settling on one thing. Yeah, or maybe it does, but
and that's why they're sort of like the bachelors and bachelorettes. They're the ones that often are unattached.
Yeah.
Because they just need their freedom so much to explore, they don't want to.
Oh, no. I want to be single forever. I'm a Sag rising, you guys.
Not necessarily.
I mean, maybe a little bit. I don't know. I've been telling most of my new dates that I'm pretty sure that I'm going to end up alone. They look at me so funny.
But alone for you is like, I'm going to end up not married, or I'm going to end up not in a long-term relationship, because there's a big chasm between alone and...
Okay, fine, you're right.
I mean, I don't think you're ever going to end up alone. You might end up in a very unconventional situation.
Okay, fair point.
You probably will have...
Fair point. We'll see. What? What's the
far more adventures and lovers, and
we'll see. To be determined. Okay, and then Capricorn we've talked about.
Yeah,
structure.
Yeah, control. It's a lot about control, and it's a lot about not. It's actually really hard to get through to the soft underbelly of the Capricorn, but once you do, it's absolutely there.
Yeah.
But for sure, there's not a lot given away. Yeah. And you have to trust sometimes with the Capricorn that there's a lot more softness than meets the eye.
Totally.
And
Yeah, and I just have a partner who's a Capricorn right now, and he's very like, he's got the structure, and I'm like, this. He's like, okay, but in my own way. You know?
Yeah. And it's often they have their own rules. They're going to follow their own rules. Yeah. You're going to adjust to that.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can be really soothing, and you can feel really taken care of, and you can feel like, oh, good, I get to relax into this. And sometimes it can feel punitive and harsh and detached.
Yeah.
So.
And then
we haven't really talked about Aquarius. Aquarius is kind of like Uranus. Uranus rules Aquarius at a certain level, and Aquarians love the unconventional. I mean, there's this breed of Aquarians that are a little less enthusiastic about the sort of out of the box stuff. Yeah. But for the most part, freedom is the number one requirement. It also has an impersonality to it. Mm-hmm. It has like, I love you, but I also have a detachment around that. Yeah. I love impersonally, and I can really love, but there is a universal impersonal quality. Like, I don't need to possess you.
Yeah.
Often Aquarians are not about, the Scorpio loves to possess in a certain way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, and then Pisces. I would also say of Aquarius, it's so group related. Mm-hmm. There could be a lot about communities or groups or unconventional family situations that could be Aquarian.
But it does have, like you were saying, the lone wolf side as well. So
Yes.
I'm just curious about what that would... This is my brain making these funny faces, trying to figure out what the lone wolf version of sex is, which is maybe just not. I don't know.
You're at home with your computer.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's
but
because it's technology.
Yeah, you're really... It's like a lot about technology. You feel like nobody gets you. You feel isolated. And so you use all the cutting edge technology to, so that can be, you can feel quite isolated with some versions of Aquarius. And so you have to just keep on saying to yourself, no, my people are out there and I can find them.
And now I'm finding them through this podcast.
Yeah, and I might even find them through technology, and actually find an intimacy through technology that is real as opposed to.
Yeah. And I will say, our listeners are lovely people. So you guys join the Love Warrior group on Facebook. It's open to whoever wants to join. I just have to okay you. So if I didn't pay attention, poke me.
She's got a lot to pay attention to these days.
I just need some pokes. Friendly pokes.
Yeah, and then Pisces we talked about. For sure it loves the imagination and it loves the feeling of surrender. And it loves the ocean and water. And
it's so funny you say that because I was just about to say I love hot tubs so much and I've never had sex in a hot tub. But it also seems logistically really not ideal. Like I hear those stories, but it's like I'm just like, I've sat on laps, I've had hot makeouts, but it's like, ugh, I don't know.
That's so funny because in a way it seems like such a classic thing to do is have sex in a hot tub, and you're like, no, I haven't done that.
I haven't.
I'll give you the list of everything else. But
I will say, when I was freshly single after my first boyfriend, so I was 24 and then 25, and I remember I was like going on dates for the first time, and this really was the last round of dating I did. Like there was a period between like January and maybe April or May of that year where I was like going on dates. And I would have them come meet me downtown somewhere nearby for a drink back when I could drink, maybe a dinner, maybe a little snack, a dessert if it went well. And then I would be like, not ready for the evening to be over, but like not ready to invite them to my bedroom. I'd be like, hey, I have this rooftop hot tub. Do you want to go with me? And I do remember being on the phone with my best friend and being like, it is the weirdest thing. Every time I bring someone to the hot tub, they kiss me. And she was like, even my mom knows what a hot tub means. And she was like, you're naked and it's literally steamy. And it was this moment of just like, oh. It made so much sense once it was explained to me. But that is a perfect example of some of my weird blind spots because I just love hot tubs so much.
I love it. There was a period of time when Wyoh first started coming to the retreats and there were a group of women that would sort of translate everything for her. Like, okay, Wyoh, what this means, this is how we, and you're like, oh my gosh.
I would like whisper to Lynn and Meredith. I'd be like, what's happening right now? Why is she making that gesture? I don't understand what they're laughing about. Got my funny little spots.
So good. Oh my gosh.
Should we read each other's sexy poems back and forth?
Sure. Let's see.
Do it.
This is a funny one. Let's see. Do you want to read? Read this one.
Tell me what to do, Heidi.
This one is just so much fun. It's by Tony Hoagland, and he died last year. He's a wonderful poet. But this one is just like pleasurable and funny and fun.
Love it. It's called Grammar by Tony Hoagland. Maxine, back from a weekend with her boyfriend, smiles like a big cat and says that she's a conjugated verb. She's been doing the direct object with a second-person pronoun named Phil, and when she walks into the room, everybody turns. Some kind of light is coming from her head. Even the geraniums look curious, and the bees, if they were here, would buzz suspiciously around her hair, looking for the door in her corona. We're all attracted to the perfume of fermenting joy. We've all tried to start a fire, and one day maybe it will blaze up on its own. In the meantime, she is the one today among us most able to bear the idea of her own beauty. And when we see it, what we do is natural. We take our burned hands out of our pockets and clap. I love that.
I love it because it's like, we all know that feeling when somebody walks in the room, they're clearly being loved well. And they're just like radiant, and they just also feel their own beauty. Yeah. And, these moments are sweet and short-lived, and then somebody else walks in the room with this, so it's like, but just the preciousness of it. And I love this idea of just like, let's applaud that because it's pure gorgeousness.
That makes me want to be a Maxine.
I know.
Some days I am.
This is a little more, I don't know what it is, but let's read it. This is by Kim Visda, Visda, and it's called For Lack of a Better Poem. The 7th page of my journal is missing, savagely ripped out after a successful attempt at describing your body with overused metaphors, broken rib cages, falling asleep inside the dip of your collarbones, slivers of light cutting through the cracks between your individual vertebrae. It's all been said before, and to use them again would be an insult because your eyes are not pools of ocean, your lips are not flower beds, and you are not a temple. I could not capture you even if the words were written in my own blood, because this skin can only hold so much, because I can no longer look at you without burning. You are too painful for poetry and too big for language. You are far too many things I don't know how to write about.
Oh, gosh.
Aren't they good?
So good.
I actually realized that I never explicitly went through all my poems looking for sexy poems, and I was like, I got some good sexy poems.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway.
We have to read that one.
You want to read it?
It's called Fuck. I have
It's
to read
another
it.
Kim Addonizio.
All right. I think this is a good one.
This is fun because it's actually very direct, and that's what's great about it.
Well, I will love it.
Yes, you will.
Fuck by Kim Addonizio. There are people who will tell you that using the word fuck in a poem indicates a serious lapse of taste or imagination, or both. It's vulgar, indecorous, an obscenity that crashes down like an anvil falling through a skylight to land on a restaurant table, on the white linen, the cut glass vase of lilacs. But if you were sitting over coffee when the metal hit your saucer like a missile, wouldn't that be the first thing you'd say? Wouldn't you leap back shouting, or at least thinking it, over and over, bell note riotously clanging in the church of your brain while the solicitous waiter led you away? Wouldn't you prop your shaking elbows on the bar and order your first drink in months, telling yourself you were lucky to be alive? And wouldn't you say anything but mercy, or oh my, or land sakes, well then I don't want to know you anyway, and I don't give a fuck what you think of my poem. The world is divided into those whose opinions matter and those who will never have a clue, and if you knew which one you were, I could talk to you and tell you that sometimes there's only one word that means what you need it to mean, the way there's only one person when you first fall in love, or one infant's cry that calls forth the burning milk, one name that you pray to when prayer is what's left to you. I'm saying in the beginning was the word and it was good. It meant one human entering another, and it's still what I love. The word made flesh. Fuck me, I say, to the one whose lovely body I want close. And as we fuck, I know it's holy. A psalm, a hymn, a hammer ringing down on an anvil, forging a whole new world. I mean, I feel like she's a good influence on me.
We need to get you some of her.
I really feel like she's a good influence on me. I feel like there is this quality that is just a little less polite that I could lean into. That said, thank you to all of you who are respecting my request not to send me fantasies about myself. I appreciate that. I know I just read some very sexy poems to you. You guys are amazing.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Heidi, thank you so much for being here.
It was so fun. It's been a long time coming.
Yes,
you know?
truly.
As it were. No, it's so funny. It's been such an amazing journey. Wyoh has been an incredible force of goodness and manifestation in my life. And so it's so amazing to see you growing this amazing, thriving community.
I would say it's very mutually fantastic.
Yay!
Yay! And if you guys want to go check out Heidi, you can find her on Instagram at Heidi Rose Robbins. They're not always sex related, but you could read them with sex in mind. She writes moon notes every single day and posts them, and I repost them as often as I'm on Instagram, and you can see what is that. I go follow her. She's amazing. And yeah, I'm going to gently suggest that she makes snapshots available for like sexual snapshots. What should we call them?
We'll come up with a name and we'll put it in your notes or something.
Yeah.
And I also want to say that on my website, HeidiRose.com, Wyoh actually paints astrological charts. So if you want your chart painted, you can order it. You can order through yours though too, right?
Both places.
I forgot about it. Okay.
Everything is possible.
Yes.
Your site links to my site. So
yeah.
We're you can go to wyohly.com or HeidiRose.com. It's all good spots.
So, and they're beautiful, beautiful paintings of your astrological chart.
I do love painting circles, and I do meditate on you while I paint them, and I kind of forgot that I did that until somebody ordered one yesterday.
Yeah, I used one in the newsletter I sent out yesterday.
Oh, that's why.
And it was such a beautiful one. I can't remember who you made it for, but it's like purpley and gold.
That's probably Mary's.
It was Mary's. Yeah. Anyway, it was gorgeous. So I'm highly suggesting that.
Wonderful. Lovers, fuckers. As always, you can go find us on Instagram at Sex Stories Pod. My personal is at Wyoh Lee. If you haven't rated or reviewed us yet, please go to iTunes and give us 5 stars and write a little note that says very sexy. And while you're at it, go search the Radiance Project. Even if you don't listen to it, give it 5 stars and maybe write like great podcast. Love what everything Wyoh produces. Just saying. Maybe lift us all up. And you can always write to me at sexstoriespodcast.com. Tony, my co-producer, I keep forgetting to say, Tony Reese is my co-producer. You can find him at Tony Types on Instagram, and he is now helping me with scheduling because I experience email nightmares. So working on that. Thank you to all of you who write me nice things. You keep me going, and we are growing such a wonderful community. Remember to go join the Love Warrior group on Facebook if you want to have community and a safe space to talk about your sexy details but aren't ready to share here. Now, each and every one of you, pretty please go out and share a sex story.